So a CEO was caught cheating on his wife, and the internet exploded. In case you haven't seen it, and at this point, I'm not really sure how you could have not seen it, but in case you haven't seen it, there was a big story that a CEO was cheating on his wife with his HR representative. And they went to the Coldplay concert and didn't think that anyone was going to see them. No one was going to notice. They would just blend in with the other thousands of people until the camera stopped on them, just by happenstance, by chance, stopped on them. And the reaction that they had, because they knew that they were doing something wrong, was to hide their face, run out of the camera, run out of the screen. And everybody watched as the embarrassment was clear on display in their feed, and people recorded it on their phones, and the video went viral. And the memery that has come from it, and the commentary that's come from it, all sorts of things. It's been like the talk of the internet for the last few days at this point. So the thing that I think really grabs people's attention is the fact that they were so embarrassed by what they had done. They knew what they were doing was wrong, but when light was shown on the situation there and what they were doing was exposed now to the entire world, they were really embarrassed about what it is that they were doing. Now, there's a lot of things that we can learn from that, you and I, on a practical level, because one of the things that we are taught in our tradition, the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, he teaches that anything that a person sees or hears can be utilized by that person and should be utilized by that person in their own service of God, right? Everything that you hear and see should be something that you use and you personalize and you're mindful about in shaping your best self. From the falling of a leaf from a tree to big world events, there's something that we can learn. Now, if that's true in your own personal or my own personal experiences, just by what happens in our own life, how much more so when something happens that makes everybody turn their eyes in that direction? Our entire society has been caught up in this particular incident for the last few days at this point. So perhaps there's something that can be learned for our entire society from this particular incident at this concert. Now, one thing that we can learn from that, other than don't have an affair, which is the obvious, is that you look at their reaction. The reaction was they were very embarrassed by what it was that they were doing. Right? They didn't stand proudly when the camera shined on them. They turned away, they tried to escape, they didn't want anyone to see. Because when you think about your life as if you're being watched, you behave differently. And one of the things that perhaps our society can think about, can learn from that, is that we tend to act better when there's a watching eye. If I become more aware of the watching eye of God, I might choose a different way of that I'm living my day. I might be more careful about my actions. So we should always live with the idea that there's someone watching, because in fact, there is at the end of the day. There is an eye that watches. In fact, in the Pirkei Avos, in the Ethics of Our Fathers, which is one of the great works of ethics in our rabbinic tradition, it teaches that if a person keeps in mind three things, they won't come to sin. Right? And one of those things is that there's an eye that sees. There's an eye that sees, an ear that hears, and that all of your deeds are written in a book, meaning that you're being watched. Not like Big Brother, but it's something that to be aware of, that, hey, the things that I do in my life are transcendent of my own personal experience, that there is greater meaning, a greater mission to this world, and I should be aware that there's something bigger to my life than sometimes the individual deeds that make it up. We see even scientifically that if a person feels like they're being watched, if a person feels that something is watching them, their behavior changes for the better. This was shown in a 2013 study in the UK, where they placed posters of eyes, just pictures of eyes, not connected to any sort of cameras or surveillance or anything, just the pictures of eyes above bike racks. And they found that theft of those bikes in that area, that it dropped by 62% just by having the picture of the eyes. Again, they weren't really being watched, but if you have the feeling like you're being watched, you'll behave accordingly. There was another study also in Philadelphia where researchers found that just simply by adding LED lighting, bright LED lighting in neighborhoods, that reduced nighttime crime by 15% and gun violence by 20%. Because when you shine light on something, people are less inclined to do the wrong thing. Literally, when you add literal physical light to a situation, the darkness goes away. But when you add light, even physical light, to the situation, the darkness of transgression, of sin, goes away as well. The idea of committing adultery and cheating on your wife, that's something that is not only forbidden in the Ten Commandments, which is part of Jewish tradition, but something that even predates the Ten Commandments. It goes to what is called in the West natural law. There are certain laws that were ingrained, embedded into society. In Jewish tradition, we call them the Noahide laws, named after Noah, because we're all descendants of Noah. But this is natural law that is embedded as the bedrock of civilization. And the proof that in the biblical texts that there were moral laws even before the Ten Commandments were given is because people and generations were penalized for their sins even prior to the Ten Commandments being given. So you have, for example, the generation of the Tower of Babel, the generation of the flood. You have Sodom and Gomorrah. You have Cain and Abel, right at the beginning of creation. Why is Cain punished for killing his brother? Who says killing is wrong? Well, there are certain principles of natural law embedded in mankind, embedded in society and civilization, that make the fundamentals of a moral society. There are certain things that create a moral society, and stable marriages create stable civilization. So this is something that everybody needs to be aware of. But it's not just about believing in God and believing that there's an eye that sees, because a person at the end of the day has to be mindful of what it is that they might know. Even if I believe that an eye sees and that God is there, is he really paying attention? Does God really care about what I do? That has to be the next level in our thought process. Let it go from head to heart. Let it go from the way that which we think and are mindful of the world, that it transforms the way in which we behave. The Talmud teaches a story about a thief that before he goes in to rob the house that he's about to go into, he prays to God that he should be successful and not get caught. So on the one hand, the thief believes in God, the fact that he's praying, but that thought process of belief in God hasn't penetrated down into his action. The proof of that is that he's about to go rob the house. So aside from knowing that there is an eye that is watching, and always being aware that God's presence is in our life, that we should be mindful of that and take that to heart, that it also influences our actions. So what's one thing that we can learn from this besides don't commit adultery? Well, we can refresh ourselves how important it is to surround ourselves with reminders of light. And that means to recognize that there is an eye that watches, that our deeds are not only the sum total of the things that happen in our own lives, but that our deeds have cosmic meaning, cosmic value. When I do something right, I can uplift not only my own life, but the entire universe. And when I do something that I shouldn't be doing, it has the potential not only to destroy my own life, but it also brings down society and in a cosmic way as well. We have in Judaism different reminders reminding us that there is someone watching what we're doing. Not in a big brother sort of way, but just to remind us that there's more value to our deeds than as an individual. My deeds carry cosmic meaning. I need to be mindful of the life that I'm living. We have mezuzahs on our doors. We have tzitzis, fringes at our sides. We have yarmulkes on our head, reminding us that there's always something watching, someone above us. That is a key. The mindfulness of God in our lives is something that I think we can all use a refresher on. And this incident, as embarrassing it is for this guy and all the chatter and all the memes and all the things that have happened from it can also, the one thing that can come from it as well is a lesson. Invite awareness of God into your daily life. It's not about shame. It's about rising to be our best selves.